Welcome back to ML class. Hello students, in the previous class we have started the module 3. The module 3 is comprising of artificial neural network. The complete studying about a structure of a artificial neural network and the algorithm which is being utilized, that is a backpropagation algorithm which we are going to study in this model. But in the previous class we have started with the basics of a artificial neural network. What are the characteristics of the artificial neural network that addresses the problem. So those concepts, and then regarding the perceptron we started knowing about the perceptron, what is that perceptron, how the perceptron is performing just like a biological neuron. Those concepts and all in a previous class we have been studied. Now continuing the same artificial neural network, we can say like in a architecture of artificial neural network, it is comprising of, or it can be divided into 3 parts or 3 layers. The artificial neural network has been comprising of 3 layers. In this 3 layers, we can say the first layer, which we call it as a input layer. The input layer where it will be consisting of a input neurons. So first is the input layer. As you look at this diagram, the input layer, this layer is responsible for receiving information. That information can be in the form of a data, signals, features or measurements from the external environment, and these inputs are usually normalized within the limit values produced by the activation function. When you look at this diagram, in an input layer, that is an input perceptron, is perform a function. That function is an activation functions, is be performed on the input data, and the normalizing is going to be done by the input nodes or input layer. The second layer is hidden layer. Hidden layer, intermediate layer or an invisible layer. These layers are composed of neurons which are responsible for extracting patterns associated with the process or a system being analyzed. These layers performs most of the internal processing operations and then provide the output to the output layer. The mainly when you look at this diagram, you can easily understand what the internal layers are performing. Actual processing units are present in the intermediate layer. Those processing is going to be done, the maximum part of the work is be done by this intermediate layer, and then it goes to provide the output to the output layer. Next, third layer of a artificial neural network. The third is the output layer. This layer is also composed of neurons, and its responsible is to producing and presenting the final network output. So this diagram which is going to show here is, this diagram is going to indicate an output layer. In this output layer, the end user, the users are going to receive the proper output. So that's what the final network is the outputs which results from the processing performed by the neurons in the previous layers. In an intermediate layer itself, the processing almost will be done, But the thing here is the output layers are receives those processed data and then tries to form it out in a certain pattern and gives you a result. So that's the main function of this output layer. This is what the architecture which will be comprising to construct an artificial neural network. Now in this artificial neural network which you have been observing that node we call it as a perceptron. In a previous class itself we have come across the perceptron. So now just we memorize what is this perceptron, and then next step is we try to use the formulas or the weights which is present in the perceptron. In a previous class itself we came to know about perceptron. We just memorize this perceptron and continue the remaining part of this particular perceptron. Next thing is, when it comes to the perceptron is a single layer neural network. If you consider only a one single perceptron, it will be a single layer perceptron where it receives the input from the multiple inputs it's going to receive, and that multiple units will be processed inside the single neuron and it returns the single output. These are all the inputs and the outputs. So, a perceptron is going to receive a vector of real value and then calculates a linear combination of these inputs. It calculates linear combination of these inputs and provides you a single output. If what happens here, the single perceptron is going to do, if the result is greater than the threshold value, then it outputs 1. Otherwise, it gives you a result -1. That's what we are been looking at in this equation. This equation here is the output x1, see these are the inputs x1, x2, x3, xn, and also a constant x0. Always the x0 will be equal to 1. Now this output will be summation of all the values, and along with this input the weights are going to be represented. So perceptron is going to perform a activation function. It summarize or sum it up all the inputs. So when it sum it up W0 plus W1 x1 plus W2 x2 plus dash dash Wn xn. If this value is greater than threshold, or if it is greater than 0, then the output will be 1. Output is 1. Otherwise the output is -1. In this case, where Wi is also a real valued constant or it is a weight that determines the contribution of the input xi to the perceptron output. It's just a contribution to the input which is going to received, and then it provides the proper output. When it comes to this particular part, many of the times we will consider -W0. -W0 will be considered, so that -W0 is a threshold that weighted combination of the inputs. See, the remaining weighted combination of the inputs must surpass in order for the perceptron to output a 1. What happens here is we should get the proper result from the perceptron. So when you want to get proper result from the perceptron gives you the result that should be greater than 0 or less than 0. That will be the proper output. So if you have minus W naught, that minus W naught is going to provide, means it's going to surpass, means the greater value which is present, W1 Wx2 x1 to Wn x1, this value will be minimized and gives you the proper result. So that is why the minus W naught is going to be considered for the calculation purpose. The next thing is, sometimes this functions which is performed by the perceptron can also be written in another form. This operation can also be written in another form. Let us look at that form. That is O of x dash, that is vector of x is equal to sigmoid function of vector of w into vector of x, where this sigmoid output y is equal to 1 if y is greater than 0. If output y is greater than 0, then the output of the perceptron will be 1. If not, otherwise minus 1. So this is another way of representing the output of a perceptron. And like learning a perceptron involves choosing a value of a weights. So this point we have to remember a lot, because weights are the one which must be chosen properly, that the output of the perceptron must be proper. So we should obtain a proper result, so weight must be chosen properly. And the weights, to choose the weight in a proper manner, we are going to use the hypothesis space of a candidate elimination algorithm is being utilized by a perceptron to know about the weights. So you just think it of, we have seen a hypothesis space H, where H is comprising of a multiple hypothesis H1, H2, H3, Hn. This we have come across in a candidate elimination algorithm in a first module. The same thing is being utilized, the same hypothesis space is going to be considered in a perceptron for learning all the possible set of real valued weight vectors. Did you understood? So here this hypothesis space is being utilized by this perceptron to represent all the possible real valued vectors of weights. So that is why the weight is being represented by the hypothesis. That is why the capital H is equal to vector of W. Vector of W, and all the vector of W are a real valued vector. So that is going to belongs to a R real valued n plus 1, real valued vector. So this is how the perceptron learning will consider the hypothesis for weight vector. Now let us move on to this. Why do we need a weights and why we have to bias? So weights shows the strength of a particular node, and bias that value allows you to shift the activation curve to move up or down part. So that is why we require this weights and bias. At this diagram is highlighting the how the single perceptron is performing its calculation and provides the output. See, there are pixels values are being considered as inputs. Those inputs are x1, x2, x3, x4 is being considered as an input, and the weights are going to be specified over here, and S is a one single perceptron which is summing it up all the input values. And if S value is greater than -1, it gives you the positive. The positive one is indicating the bright pixel, whereas minus, that is if it is less than if it is less than -0.1, next it will be indicating as a dark pixel. So this diagram is highlighting how a single perceptron is performing its operation. Now let us consider a perceptron, how the representational power of a perceptron. We need to highlight how the perceptron are used to represent a target value for a given instances or a given training example, how it is going to represent it, whether either it is a positive, it can be a positive training example or negative training example. It should represent in a proper manner and it should take a decision on a hyperplane surface. So how this perceptron is going to be done? So when you look at this, the two diagrams we are going to have these two diagrams are going to highlight how the perceptron can be viewed as a representing a hyperplane decision surface in the n-dimensional space of instance. So here let us look at here, there are two inputs are present, x1 and x2. So let us look at this diagram. When you look at this diagram, we can easily analyze how the perceptron can view as a representing a hyperplane, this hyperplane for decision surface in a n-dimensional space of a instance. Let us consider two inputs, that is x2 and x1 are the two inputs, and then in this hyperplane where we are going to come across multiple instances or a training examples. Those training examples can be a positive training example or a negative training example. Let us consider this. These are the positive training examples which lie on this hyperplane in n-dimensional space. Next, these are all the negative training examples. Now, let us draw a linear line so that linear line can separate both the positive and negative instances. If you draw a line here, this is a linear separable line. This line is separating the positive instance and negative instance in a n-dimensional space. Now we can say that a perceptron is going to represent a particular value if a few instances which lie on a one part of the surface, then it predicts it as a positive instances. Otherwise, it predicts it as a negative instances. But in this case, its linear line is being drawn and the instances are being like evenly, it is been like filled over here, and it is evenly, it is got separated, that is positive and negative got separated. So when we look at this, a set of training examples and the decision surface of a perceptron that classify them correctly in this diagram. Now let us come to the second diagram. When you come to the second diagram, in this diagram, once again we have got two inputs, that is x2, x1, x1. You have got plus 4 here, 1 plus here, minus and minus. Now the next step is, we need to separate the positive instances and negative instances by the perceptron. But when you look at this example, where the perceptron will not be capable of separating the positive and negative instances separately. So, a linear separable line for a set of training example will be addressed for this training examples. So, this diagram is going to show a set of training example that is not linearly separable. X2 and X1 are the perceptron inputs. So, here the positive examples are represented plus, negative examples are represented minus. So, there are two inputs are present. Based on those two inputs, we are going to multiple training examples are being scattered over in a hyperplane, that is in an n-dimensional surface, where perceptron is not going to take any decision to separate the positive training example from the negative training example. So, here the perceptron outputs a 1 for an instance laying on a one side of the hyperplane and output minus 1 for the instance laying on the another plane. That is applicable for the first diagram. That is not applicable for this diagram. Next, a single perceptron. That is, single perceptron means you know that it is a single node. A single perceptron can also be used to represent the Boolean function. Now, let us look at how this perceptron is going to address the Boolean operations. You can easily understand how the perceptron can be used to represent many Boolean functions. It can represent AND operation, OR operation, NOR operation, and also it can NAND operation. It can also represent the NAND operation. But the first thing is, let us understand how it is going to represent the AND operation with an example. Let us understand how the single perceptron can be used to represent many Boolean functions. For example, we can say here the true value, like consider the truth table of AND operation. The perceptron can represent a single perceptron can represent a AND operation, OR operation, NAND operation, or XOR NOR operation, and a network of neurons or a perceptron can represent any of the logical operations like XOR operation or any other operation can be represented by this neuron. Now, let us understand how the perceptron is going to perform or address the function of this function of Boolean value, Boolean function, that is AND operation. When you look at the AND operation, we consider the truth table of the AND. Now, you know the inputs 0 0, the 0 0 input, the output must be 0, and 0 1 output is 0, 1 0 the output is 0, 1 1 the output is 1. Now, let us look at apply these two inputs along with the considered weights, and then look at how the perceptron is going to returns the result. So, when you are having a weight, now let us consider the weight. W0 is a weight considered is equal to minus 0.8. Always the W0 will be considered like a negative value, because the larger value which we are obtaining from the linear combination of x1 w1 to wn xn, that greater value must be decreased or normalized by this W naught weight. That's why we are considering W naught is equal to minus 0.8. Next, consider W1 is equal to W2. Those weights are 0.5. Now apply these inputs to the perceptron and then look at what will be the output. And the threshold value which we have chosen over here is greater than, if any value greater than 0, the output will be 1. If it is less than 0, then output will be 0. Now according to this weights, then what happens, x1 is equal to 0, x2 is equal to 0, then we are going to get minus 0.8 itself, whereas minus 0.8 is less than 0, it returns output will be 0. Now let us consider for the second one. Second one is x1 is 0, x2 is 1. By applying the equation over here, we are going to get minus 0.3, that is minus 0.3 we are going to get. Minus 0.3 means it is less than 0. The output which returns by the perceptron is 0. Let us consider for when x1 is equal to 1, x2 is equal to 1, what will be the result? X minus 0.8 plus 0.5 plus 0.5, that is equal to 0.2. So 0.2 is representing it's greater than 0. If it is greater than 0, then what happens? The output will be 1. The perceptron returns the output 1. This is how the perceptron can be used to perform the Boolean function. Now let us look at the next topic, the perceptron training rule. What is this perceptron training rule? What we are supposed to do it in this? See, the output which we are going to obtain from the perceptron is mainly depends on the weights. If the learning problem is to determine a vector of weight that causes the perceptron to produce the correct results, that depends on the training example. So to obtain that, what we have to do? We need to improvise the weight. So to learn to accept the weights, vector of weights in such a way that the perceptron should provide a proper result to the appropriate instances or a training example. So first step is to perform this operation in a neural network. What the things going to happen here? It just first step is it just randomly choose the weights. Then perform its operation iteratively by applying the weights to the perceptron and considering the training for each of the training example, modifying the perceptron weights whenever it misclassify the example. That means here is, in a previous example we have seen the Boolean function. If for the inputs x1 is equal to 0, x2 is equal to 0, if it returns the output as a 1, then it is not been classifying the instance properly. So we need to classify that instance properly for a given training example or for a given instance. So it should be updating the weight value. So this process is repeated, iterating through the training examples or an instance as many times as needed until the perceptron classifies all the training examples or an instance correctly. Next, weights must be modified in each step according to the perceptron training rule, and which revises the weights Wi associated with the input Xi according to that rule. Say according to the perceptron rule, the perceptron must be capable of revising the weight value. So, how it is going to revise the weight value? So, the weight value can be revised with this formula, and we can obtain the new weights, and this process will be iteratively performed until the perceptron classifies the training example in a correct manner. So, now let us look at the training rule. Wi is a new weight which we can obtain by having Wi plus delta of delta Wi. What is this delta Wi? Where delta Wi is equal to nu, that is, it's called as a learning rate, that is a nu is a positive constant and it's called as a learning rate, and it is always, it will be keeping a small value, like its assumptions learning rate which is done, it's a small value 0.1. Next, target output T minus output which we have been obtained multiplied by Xi. Which Wi you want to change, the same Xi is input will be considered. Delta Wi is equal to nu of T minus O. T minus O is, T is indicating the target output of the current training example. T is indicating target output of current training example, whereas O is representing, O is going to be output generated by the perceptron, generated by perceptron, where nu is a learning rate, nu is a learning rate. Learning rate is to moderate the degree to which the weights are changed at each step, and it is usually set or assumed to be a very small value, that is of 0.1, and is sometimes made to decay, means sometimes it is negligible value is going to be chosen, so that we should tune the weight in each of the iteration. So, while tuning the weights in each of the iteration, the weights are going to be increased, while considering this new value very less, that is the learning rate. So, now the drawback. When it comes to this perceptron rule, this rule got its own drawback. It finds successful weight vector when the training examples are linearly separable. When it is applicable, this part of the training rule, when we can separate a training example linearly, and it is going to fail to converge if the examples are not linearly separable. Let us study the gradient descent and delta rule. If the training examples are not linearly separable, during that time, delta rule converges towards a best fit approximation to obtain the target concept. And here, the key idea behind this, having this gradient descent here, is we should have the delta rule. So, delta rule is to use gradient descent to search the hypothesis space of all possible weight vectors to find the weights that best fit the training example. So, to understand the delta training rule, consider the task of training an unthreshold perceptron. Now let us look at how the unthreshold means we are not going to choose any threshold value. So without choosing the threshold value, we just wants to train up the perceptron so that we can obtain the output properly. That is the linear unit for E which the output O is given by. Now let us look at why the key, you know that why the delta rule is going to be used in a gradient descent, so that we can choose the weight in a proper manner, so that we can linearly separate the training example, either it as a positive training example or it as a negative training example. Let us consider the linear unit of output. As in a previously we have seen, the output is equal to W0 plus W1 x1 plus W2 x2 and so on plus Wn xn output, and we can write it as a vector. X vector is equal to, we can say that is a vector of weights into vector of x. So if the training examples are not linearly separable, the delta rule converges towards the best fit approximation to the target concept. So to have this, instead of having this linear unit for the analysis, we to derive a weight for this learning rule for a linear units, we should specify a measure for a training error. See, previously what happens? Previously we find out the updated value of weight, but here before finding the updated value of a weight, we should estimate the what is the error which has got come across between the perceptron output and expected target output. So that difference we should find it out. So that is can be done by using this equation, that is error which is present in a vector of weight is equal to half of summation of small d belongs to the capital D, small d indicating a training examples which belongs to a data set D, where data set is comprising of a multiple training examples. Next, summation of TD minus OD the whole square, minus the whole square, where in this equation, by using the equation, we tries to measure or we try to specify a measure for the training errors of hypothesis. Hypothesis is indicating here is weight. Hypothesis vector or a weight vector relative to the training example. With respect to the training example, we try to find out the error by using this equation. In this equation, where capital D is a set of training examples, where TD is a target output for a training example D, small d target output, and next OD is representing the output of the linear unit for a training example D, that is the perceptron which we are going to obtain. For that particular training example, what the perceptron is providing the output, that is called as a OD. Next, EW vector is simply a half the squared difference between the target output TD and the linear unit output OD summed over all the training examples. So that is what way we are going to find out this error. To understand the gradient descent algorithm, it is very useful or we can call helpful to visualize the entire hypothesis space of a possible weights and their associated error values as shown in this figure. So this figure, when you are looking at this figure is going to highlight two weights. The two weights are W1 and W2 are the two weights, W0 and W1 are the two weights, and then the vertically we are representing the error. So here the axis W0 and W1 represent a possible values of two weights of a simple linear unit. The W0 and W1 plane therefore represents the entire hypothesis space, where the vertical axis indicates error E relative to some fixed set of training examples. The arrow mark which we are showing over here, the arrow shows the negated gradient at one particular point, indicating the direction in the W0 W1 plane, producing a steepest descent along the error surface. So the error surface shown in the figure thus summarizes the desirability of every weight vector in the hypothesis space. So here, in the given the way which we have chosen E for a linear units, this error surface must always be parabolic. See, when you look at this diagram, you can see that it's a parabolic. Its structure is a parabolic with a single global minimum value. A gradient descent determines a weight vector that minimizes E by starting with an arbitrary initial weight vector, then repeatedly modifying it in the small steps. At each step, the vector, that weight vector, is altered in the direction that produces the steepest descent along the error surface depicted in this particular diagram or in a figure. This process will be keep on repeating until it gets a global minimum error is reached. See, while looking at this diagram, see, there is a recursively it is performing and finding out a global minimum space in the in a search space, in a vector search space, and then finding out the minimum value. So it is finding local minima and saddle point is there, and global minima. It tries to find out the global minima in this diagram. So now you can view here, it's in the parabolic shape, and in this parabolic shape it tries to find out the minimum error, global minimum error is going to be finding out, and just this is the diagram which is going to highlight the minimum point, global minimum point. So that's all about the visualization of the hypothesis space. Now in the next class, let us continue with the derivation of gradient descent delta rule. In this class, we have covered the perceptron. We have come across the perceptron. Next, how the perceptron is used to represent Boolean values, and next we have come across the error, how to update the weights and calculate the errors which have been obtained during the classification. If there is a wrong classification done by the perceptron, how we are going to update the weights, and then we are going to get the proper result for a particular training examples. So those things which we have come across in this class. Okay, in the next class we will start with the derivation of gradient descent rule. Thank you.